Summary of an episode of War by Stephen Crane. In the first scene, a lieutenant is giving out coffee to his men in a camp behind the battlefield. The guys watch him carefully as he uses a sword to divide up his blanket into pieces. He is shot out of the blue, but no one knows what just happened for a minute. The lieutenant tries to draw his sword, but he can't because his arm is hurt, so he tries even harder to put it away. The men stare blankly, first at the lieutenant and then at the forest in the distance where the bullet came from, until a nervous orderly sergeant steps forward to help the lieutenant. The man's over-carefulness shows the general feeling of vague fear, awe, and respect that surrounds the newly wounded officer. Sad, embarrassed, and quiet, the lieutenant walks slowly to the field hospital while looking at the trees. As he moves through the growing fight, he starts to notice things he never could before. War starts to look like a beautiful and romantic show. A general and his assistant, who normally wouldn't stand out, now look bright and remind him of a picture. He is fascinated by the look of a battery as its guns are fired into war. He thinks about what he saw and heard even though he can no longer see it. On his way to the hospital, the lieutenant passes two groups of off-duty troops who make him feel more clueless and helpless. Unbelievable, but a group of people who got left behind seem to know everything about the battle, even things that the captain never learned while he was in the front lines. A while later, when another group of officers asks the lieutenant questions he can't answer, they make fun of him even more. Worst of all, one of the officers in this group yells at the captain like a parent because he didn't treat his wound. The man rips the lieutenant's sleeve open and tries to put it back on in a rude way, making the lieutenant feel stupid and unknowledgeable. The officer finally gets to the field hospital, which is an old schoolhouse turned into a hospital. The doctor is nice to the officer at first, but when he sees his wound, he becomes rude and cold and treats him with reluctance. He makes fun of the lieutenant's poor patch and calls him a baby when he gets scared. But the captain, feeling weak and ashamed, stops dead at the schoolhouse's doors and refuses to go inside. Even though the surgeon is insisting, the captain is afraid of having a limb cut off. Crane skips ahead in time to when the lieutenant comes home. He has lost the arm, and his family is sad about it. He feels ashamed as he stands there and tries to brush off their sadness by saying, without much success, that the injury isn't as bad as it looks.
About the author. Crane was born in New Jersey to a Christian family. His family had deep roots in the United States. One grandfather started the New Haven colony in the 1600s, and another was a member of the First Congress in Philadelphia. Even though Crane was sick as a child, he loved baseball but not school. He tried going to college for a few years, a waste of time, but he liked sports and frat meetings more than lessons. He quit school, worked as a local reporter in New Jersey, and then went to New York. There, he looked into slum life and wrote Maggie, A Girl of the Streets, 1893, a social realist tell-all novel. Even though the book is now seen as a classic of combining news and fiction, it didn't sell well at the time, so Crane turned his attention to a historical event that interested him, the American Civil War. Crane made money by writing short stories. In 1895, he wrote The Red Badge of Courage, a book about a Civil War deserter who feels guilty about leaving the army. It was an instant hit. With his newfound fame, Crane became a war reporter and went all over the world to write about the Greco-Turkish War and then the Spanish-American War. With his new partner, the journalist Dora Taylor, he went to England, where his fame was at its peak. His health got worse, though, because of these long trips, and tuberculosis killed him at age 30. Crane is known as America's best Civil War writer because of The Red Badge of Courage, which has never been out of print, and his many short stories about the war. His use of irony and psychological reality put him in the school of American naturalism. He made it possible for modernist writers and later authors, like Ernest Hemingway, to write about how people felt during wartime.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.